Hello, welcome to today's class. This class will be again on shared memory programming using threads. And in today's class, we'll use pthreads. And using pthreads, we'll see how to create threads, how to terminate threads, and how to join two threads. And we'll see what are the different attributes defined in POSIX threads. I will start with a program which use this program use two threads. The first thing we need to do is we have to include pthread.h, and this is how we create a thread. The pthread create function is used to create threads, and it has four arguments. And the first argument, we need to pass a pointer to pthread underscore t, and this variable will actually be used to store the ID of the new thread that will be created. So when we create a thread, the ID of the new thread will be stored in this variable thread1. The second argument is used to set the attributes of the thread. Here we are not using the attribute, we are setting it to null, which means the new thread that will be created will use the default values for the attributes. We'll shortly see what are the different attributes a thread can have and how we can modify those attributes if we need to. The third argument specifies the subroutine that will be executed by the thread. In case of process, when we create a new process, the child process will start executing from the next statement, if you remember, but it is not the same in case of threads. In case of threads, the newly created thread will execute not the next statement but the subroutine that is specified in the third argument. And here we are specifying that task 1 should be executed, and task 1 is defined here. So the subroutine that will be executed by the newly created thread has the prototype. It returns a pointer to void, and it takes one argument, which is a pointer to void. So any subroutine that you write which will be executed by the newly created thread has to use this prototype. The function has to return a pointer to void, and that function should take as a single argument as a pointer to void. And now in the next, as the next parameter to the pthread create function, we pass the attribute, we pass the argument to this subroutine that will be executed. So when thread 1 executes this subroutine, the argument r1, the address of r1 will be passed to this subroutine. So we specify what subroutine should be executed by the newly created thread and what arguments should be passed to that subroutine. In the same way, we create one more thread. So two threads are created, and for the second thread, we want the second thread to execute the subroutine task 2. That's what we pass, and to task 2 we will send the address of r2 as an argument. And now after the two threads are created, at this point we actually have one process running, and in that process we have three threads. One is the main thread plus the two newly created threads, thread 1 and thread 2. Now the main thread will execute the join function, and here we are trying to join to thread 1, and what it means is the main thread will now wait for thread 1 to terminate. So the main thread will come here and it will wait for thread 1 to terminate, but it may happen that before main thread arrives at this function, thread 1 has already terminated. In that case, the main thread will not wait and it will proceed to the next statement. So the main thread will wait here only in case task 1 has not terminated, and in that case it will keep on waiting here till task 1 terminates, and once task 1 terminates, the main thread will proceed to the next statement. And now how can we terminate a thread? When we reach the end of the subroutine, if we reach the end of the subroutine that the thread is executing, that will terminate the thread. So the thread will get terminated once it completes executing the subroutine it was supposed to execute. Alternatively, a task can terminate also by invoking the pthread exit function. So before reaching the end of the subroutine, if the thread calls pthread exit, that will also terminate the thread. However, we should not terminate a thread by calling the exit function, because if we call the exit function, it will not only terminate the thread, but it will also terminate the complete process along with all the other threads. So for example, if I call exit here, it will terminate the main thread, it will terminate the thread 2, and also it will terminate the whole process actually. Now the main thread, after thread 1 gets terminated, the main thread will now wait for thread 2 to terminate by executing this join function, and once thread 2 also terminates, the main thread will proceed and execute the final subroutine. And in the final subroutine, we are passing the values r1 and r2. r1 and r2 are the two global variables. So we pass these two to the final function, and in final function we'll try to add r1 and r2. And what was the value of r1? R1 was actually set by task 1 to 2, and r2 was set to the value 3 by task 2. How did task 1 set r1? As you can see here, we pass the address of r1. So what we have here, t1 is actually pointing to r1. So we first typecast t1 into this my t1 variable. So my t1 has the same address as t1, so my t1 is also pointing to r1. So when we store a value into star my t1, that value actually gets stored into r1. So r1 will become equal to 2. And similarly here, when we store the value 3 into star my t2, r2 will become equal to 3, because here we are passing the address of r2. So in this final computation, when we add r1 and r2, the final answer should be 5. So now let us try to execute this program. If you have to compile a pthread function using pthread, this is the command line you should use. This is the command you should use: gcc minus pthread, the name of your function. So now let me execute the program. So here we have the program. So this is the same program we just now saw. We create two threads, thread 1, thread 2, thread 1 will execute task 1, which will set R1 into 2. Thread 2 will execute task 2, which will set R2 to the value 3, and the main thread will finally do a computation R1 plus R2. So let me execute this function. GCC thread 03.c, and let me execute. And as you can see, here is the output. So task 1, thread 1 gets executed, thread 2 gets executed, and when we do the final computation, we get the value 5. Now going back to our slides. So here, so now we will make a small modification to the program. So we say that the main thread, it don't want to compute the final value, it just want to create the 2 threads, and it don't want to wait on thread 1, it don't want to wait on thread 2, it just wants to exit. So is it okay to remove these 3 lines? If we remove these 3 lines, this is what we have. Now is this correct? Actually, this is not correct, because if we have the program, if we write our program in this way, here the main thread will exit, and when it exits, it will exit the process, and it will also kill the other 2 threads. So not only the main thread will be terminated, even the process will be terminated, and when the process terminates, the 2 threads will also be terminated, which means the 2 threads may not get the chance to execute. So this is not the correct way to exit the main thread. If we want to exit the main thread, this is how we should exit. We should use the pthread exit function. So now when the main thread exits, by calling this function, the process will not be terminated, and hence the 2 threads will continue to exist, and they will execute. And only when both the threads terminate, only at that time the process will also terminate. And now here's a small difference between the process and threads. In case of process, when a process creates 2 new processes, and if the parent process terminates, the child processes will also terminate. So your child processes cannot exist without the parent process. However, it is not the same in case of threads. In case of threads, even if the main thread terminates, the other two threads will continue to exist. So this is the difference between threads and process. Now let us verify what I said again by running some code. So we go back to our function, and here is the same function as before, but now we have removed the join calls, and we have removed the final computation, and we have replaced those 3 statements with pthread exit. And now let us run this program. First I compile, and now when I run the program, I can see that both the threads thread 1 and thread 2, they executed their corresponding subroutines. However, if I don't use pthread exit, and the main thread terminates without calling pthread exit, in that case, let's see what will happen. Again, we will compile and then we run, and as you can see, when I run the new program, the two threads are not being able to execute. So the two threads also gets terminated before they can execute, and that's why we don't see a message like this. So when the main thread is terminating, it is also terminating the thread 1 and thread 2. Okay, coming back to our slides. Next we'll talk about the thread attributes. So in POSIX, these 8 thread attributes are defined. They are detach state, stack size, guard size, stack address, scheduling inheritance attribute, scheduling policy attribute, scheduling parameters attribute, and scope attribute. Let us first see how to modify the attributes. So here is a code snippet showing how to modify the attributes. So we need to initialize the attribute object. The attribute object is of type attribute underscore t, and this is how we initialize the attribute object. We initialize it by calling the attribute init function, and when we call the attribute init function, the attribute object gets initialized with the default values for the attributes. And the next, if we have to modify any of the attribute, we have to use the corresponding set attribute function. So here I have used the star. So instead of star, you should use the corresponding set function. Each attribute has a set function. We will see what are the name of those functions shortly. So based on which attribute you want to modify, you have to use the corresponding set function. And once you have and if you want to set multiple attributes, you need to have multiple set functions. And once your attribute object is ready, now you are ready to create a new thread. And when you create a new thread, you will pass the attribute object, and now the newly created thread will use the attributes that are specified in this attribute object. In the programs that we wrote earlier, we use the null value, which means in that case the threads that we created use the default attribute values, but here we want to use our own attribute values, so we should pass the attribute object. And once you finish creating the thread, we can destroy the attribute object. Now let us look at each attribute, what it means. The detach state has two possible values, create joinable or create detached. So when the detach state attribute is set to this value joinable, in that case the newly created thread, another thread will be able to join to it, or will be able to retrieve its return value, or will be able to cancel it. So in our first program that we wrote, the main thread joined to thread 1 and thread 2, which means thread 1 and thread 2 were joinable threads because that's the default value. However, if we change the value of these attributes to detached, then other threads will not be able to join to those threads, because the operating system retains no status information when such a thread exits, and it is an error to detach to it's an error to join to a detached thread. And what is the set function for this attribute? And the set function for the detach state attribute is set detach state. So if you have to modify this attribute, this is the function you have to use. And we have a set function. Similarly, you also have a get function. The next attribute is stack size. The stack size attribute determines the minimum size that will be allocated for the thread stack. And this attribute can be modified using the set stack size function. The guard size attribute tells you how many bytes will be allocated as a guard against the stack overflow. So it will be allocated at the end of the stack, just in case there may be a stack overflow. And how many guard bytes will be there, that is specified by this attribute. And the attribute can be modified using the set guard size function. The next attribute is the stack address. And the stack address specifies the memory that will be used as a stack for the thread. So which part of the memory, which memory address will be used, starting at which memory address the stack will be allocated. And the attribute can be modified using the set stack attribute function. Now next attribute is the scheduling inheritance, which can have two different values. One is inherit scheduling, the other one is explicit scheduling. Now when we set the attribute to this value, inherit scheduling, it means that newly created thread will inherit the scheduling attributes from the thread that created it. So whatever scheduling attributes the parent thread have, the newly created thread will use the same scheduling attributes. Now what are the different scheduling attributes? We will see shortly. It's the scheduling policy, the priority, and the scope. So we have three scheduling attributes, and value of those three scheduling attributes will be inherited from the parent thread if the scheduling inheritance attribute is set to inherit scheduling. But however, if we change this attribute to explicit scheduling, then the newly created thread will use the scheduling attribute values specified in the attribute object. It will not inherit from the parent thread, but will use the values that are specified in the attribute object. And how do we change this attribute value? By using the set inherit sched function. The next attribute is scheduling policy. This is one of the scheduling attribute we just now mentioned, and it can have three possible values. Sched FIFO means the first in first out scheduling policy will be used for scheduling the thread, and round robin means the round robin scheduling policy will be used to schedule the threads, and the third value is sched others, which means the operating system will determine what scheduling policy to use. And the function to set this attribute is set sched policy. Scheduling parameter attribute, it is used to specify the priority of the thread, and it can be modified using the set schedule param function. And finally we have the scope attribute, which can have two possible values. One is the scope system, the other one is scope process. When a newly created thread have this attribute set to scope system, in that case the thread will contend with all other threads in the system. Doesn't matter whether the thread belongs to the same process or it belongs to another process. So the thread will contend with it will compete with all the other threads of other processes also it will fight for the resources like the CPU. The other possible value is scope process, in which case the thread contains with other threads from the same process only. It will not contend with threads from other processes. So for example, if it has to fight for the CPU resource, the thread will fight with only threads from the same process. So, and this attribute can be set using the set scope function, and that is the last attribute. That's all for this class. In the next class we'll see how to use mutex in threads. Okay, bye.